It started at the intersection of desperation and inspiration, right? And I think most people at some phase of their life feel those two things in varying degrees. And I think what they do with that combustion ends up determining their life. I was obsessed with why some people made of the same skin, flesh, and bones, the same toolbox, their life sucked, and other people were living their dreams. And all of the variables are all the same. We all have the same sun shines on us all, the same wind blows on us all. So the difference was up here. And I think as a young kid, I just became obsessed with finding out what are they doing differently in here to do that, whether it be on the pitch, in sports, in business, in life, etc. So as a young kid, I had the inspiration. I tell anybody that's never gone to seminars, they say decisions shape your destiny. And Tony said, new decisions equal a new life, right? The only difference between you, the version of you living their dream, and the version of you that's not, is the decisions you make. That's it. I drove 3.5 hours to Beverly Hills to wait outside of a restaurant that Grant Cardone and his wife were at and pitched him about getting on the podcast when he got out. And he said yes, right? Like, talk about leap of faith. I had a beat up 2013 Toyota Corolla. I parked it around the corner because I was embarrassed and I couldn't afford valet. I even borrowed gas money to get there, just to show you the level of like inner anxiety and whatever. But the fire in me was so strong.
Andrew Tate, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, Luke Belmont, one of my favorite, Patrick Bet-David, founders, like just revolutionary names I gave you. How did you manage to convince these people to jump on your podcast? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Code to Winning, Insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Today we actually have an amazing guest. Many people have been reaching out to me and asking me questions about, hey KG, how you getting this certain guest as a podcast interview? How you getting this person? How you networking? How you doing this thing? How you getting reach? If you are curious in building your personal brand, building rapport, getting high quality guests, this is the episode for you, because I have one of the OGs of networking in the studio today. He is the founder and also the host of the Passionate Few podcast, which is one of the top business and entrepreneurial podcasts. The link will be in the description section for you to subscribe. Some of the most high quality guests, not only in the United States, but also abroad. And I'll tell you who I'm talking to as well. Also, business leader and entrepreneur. So if you are curious in those departments, this is the episode for you. So without further ado, Omar Elattar, aka Omar the Rockstar.
My man, thank you for having me on the show. Love that intro. That was great.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for taking the time. Apologies for a bit of the harassment.
No, it was good. I love it. I love it. Success loves speed, and I know what it's like to be on the other end of trying to get interviews, so I always appreciate it when I see hustlers doing the same.
No, I love that so much, man. And I've been so curious, and your podcast is not only is the quality guests, it's just the unique formation of it, of how, you showed me an intro trailer before we started right now. Thumbnail, like description, everything is such a drawing kind of podcast. But before we dive into that, I want to kind of find out, where did this formation and ambition of young Omar come from?
Yeah, so it started at the intersection of desperation and inspiration, right? And I think most people at some phase of their life feel those two things in varying degrees. And I think what they do with that combustion ends up determining their life, right? For me, early on, I was always a dreamer. I always wanted to dream and didn't want to just leave it a dream, right? I went to my first soccer game or football match, depending on where you're watching, in California with my father, and I saw these professionals playing soccer, and it was for the first time in my life I couldn't believe those dudes are getting paid to play, and they're made of the same skin, flesh, and bones as me and you. How do I do that? How do I get paid to live my dream? Because I saw so many people struggle financially, struggle in life, etc. So as a young kid, I became obsessed with bridging the gap. How did a regular person that's made of the same skin and bones as me and you end up owning these buildings, or end up driving these red fast cars, or end up with these beautiful women, or end up doing what they love? I was obsessed with why some people made of the same skin, flesh, and bones, the same toolbox, their life sucked, and other people were living their dreams. And all the variables are all the same. We all have the same sun shines on us all, the same wind blows on us all. So the difference was up here. And I think as a young kid, I just became obsessed with finding out what are they doing differently in here to do that, whether it be on the pitch, in sports, in business, in life, etc. So as a young kid, I had the inspiration. And we can talk about a series of events in my life that led to me having, for example, as a kid, I got into soccer and I wanted to be a professional. And then I got into skateboarding, I wanted to be a professional skateboarder. And then I got sponsored and got some momentum in that. And then I got into acting and filmmaking. And then after that, I would try all these different things. And so I was always getting momentum, but I would always plateau and then kind of self-sabotage. So I found myself in my early to mid-20s kind of frustrated by the fact that I had tasted every dream I ever pursued, but I didn't quite live it to fruition. And so fast forward in my early 20s, I was working at Tesla. Well, long story short, a girlfriend broke up with me. And this was really the impetus of where the podcast started. We can get into it, but it was like, I'm giving you the context of the roller coaster from childhood to like late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
I was trying all these things and, up and down and up and down. And then I hit rock bottom in my early 20s and ended up going to a Tony Robbins event.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I think the Tony Robbins event, I noticed when everyone has ever, been to those events, was that very transformative for you? Is that when you decided to make that decision for yourself?
Incredibly transformative.
Okay.
I tell anybody that's never gone to seminars, they say decisions shape your destiny. And Tony said, new decisions equal a new life, right? The only difference between you, the version of you living their dream, and the version of you that's not, is the decisions you make. That's it. The blood looks the same. Your skin looks the same. Your biology and cells look the same. The difference is the decisions you choose to take. And so I remember there was a shift in me at that event because I was sitting next to a gentleman who was he was probably in his 20s, like maybe late 20s. And I saw on his income that he wrote down on a exercise Tony Robbins had us do, where he said, write down your current income and then write down your dream income. My current income was, I don't know, maybe 30 to 50K a year. And my dream income was like 100K a year. That was like the dream. That was like, oh my God, 10,000 a month or 100,000 a year would be unbelievable. And I peek over at my paper, right? Proximity is power. I peek over at the paper of the gentleman next to me, and his income is currently 400 and something thousand, and his goal is $1 million. And he's only a couple years older than me. And I'm like, how is his current income that he's unhappy with 4 times my dream income? I couldn't fathom that. And like, how? But we're sitting right next to each other at the seminar, right? This is the power of seminars. So I asked him a question, and I said, excuse me, sir, hope you don't mind me asking, but I saw on your paper that, your income was X, and you're looking to do this. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do? He goes, oh, I'm in sales. So I said, what kind of sales? He said, I'm in solar sales. I sell solar door to door. And long story short, I ended up hitting up a conversation with him, and I was desperate at that time because I had, like I said, I had success in soccer, but then I stopped. I had success in skating. I got to work for Rob Dyrdek at the Fantasy Factory. I got to travel all over the country, got free stuff from Nike, got to go to Nike World Headquarters. But before I could turn pro, I got into just, self-sabotagey behaviors, and the dream didn't come to fruition. So again, I'm communicating this to illustrate to people that I understand what it's like to actually, it's one thing to dream and not get close. It's a whole nother thing to dream, get close, and fail several times over, right? Because it's like you're almost there making it to the pro leagues, but not quite. So it becomes a lot of inner doubt, frustration with self, etc. And so long story short, I hit it off with this guy, and 2 weeks later, I'm knocking on doors in the hot heat selling $30,000 solar panels for 100% commission to people who don't want me there. For the dream of making some big money. I excel there for a couple months, and then I get almost a year. I did really well, and then I get recruited to Tesla, which ended up being my last job before I started the show. But that was the kind of impetus of the roller coaster journey, and then I did well at Tesla, and then my girlfriend and me broke up, quit my job at Tesla. I hired a life coach. And he said, I was devastated, heartbroken, depressed. And my life coach said, shout out Dave Thorpe, he said, Omar, if life was perfect, what would happen next? If life was perfect, what would happen next? because you get to choose, does this breakup mean a breakdown or a breakthrough? Nothing in life has any meaning except the meaning that we give it. And so often in life we assume meanings and our emotions follow the meanings we give it. But the meaning we give the experience becomes the experience more than the experience itself. I know that sounds wordy, but in short, he was trying to get me to turn my pain into power, to control the narrative. Right now I have all this frustration, this combustion from the heartache, but what am I going to do with it? And so that was the impetus we ended up having a sit down, and he said, if life was perfect, what would you do next? And I said, I don't know how this would work, but I closed my eyes and I said I would make millions of dollars, I would inspire millions of people, and I would surround myself with some of the most inspiring human beings on the planet. Now it makes sense because it all happened, but at the time I had no clue that it would happen, but I got clear and convicted first, and then once that was locked in, just the fire burned so hot that I just took massive action to make it happen, even though I had no clue what I was doing, no money, was $30,000 in debt. I mean, you talk about just winging it into existence. That was pretty much how it happened. I can get into it, but that's the kind of impetus.
I never even knew you sold solar, man. I did sales solar for 3 years in the Bay Area. Matter of fact, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was in the Bay Area.
You knock doors?
Knock doors.
Oh yeah, you're from Utah. Yeah, a lot of my.
That's the industry. So I'll
yeah,
pick that up. But that's
all good.
My California license from there, because I lived there for 3-4 years. But like Utah, because I'm Mormon as well.
Yes.
That's my religion. So naturally, we serve our service missions.
Right.
After our service mission, I didn't even live in the country. I'm from South Africa originally. I was telling your cousin earlier.
Where? Johannesburg?
Johannesburg. I'm a
Very
Joburg
cool.
boy. Yeah.
I've been there. It's beautiful. Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, beautiful.
People don't even know Pretoria, you know. So when you say Pretoria, Cape Town, those are our capitals. But Johannesburg is our New York City, but Pretoria is our DC. Obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, same thing. Solar just completely changed my life. Sales, because I've always had the passion for always going out there and interacting, engaging, selling a product. But that was my first 6-figure income, actually. It was from there, because I was supposed to do an internship in New York, Wall Street. I finished an internship, and I was going to get a full-time offer after I graduated in BYU. And then I was like, no, let's try the solar thing, which is a big risk sometimes.
How did you get into it, or who planted the seed?
Okay, good question. I had roommates that were all from Idaho. Straight studs. So I'm at the point, I'm doing this internship, and it's like, the nice thing is that Bloomberg was offering, like, it was during COVID time, so they offered like accommodation, Manhattan. They offered like Uber rides. Everything was like given there. They paid us super well. I think it was like $45 an hour, which is amazing.
Yes.
But the problem is that I kept checking my friends' stories, and I'm like, these guys are golfing, and I keep seeing them on the leaderboard making like 10K, 15K, and in the summer they make like about like 6 figures.
Right.
The math is not mathing.
Right.
And so I roomed with them. I got back after my internship, and long story short, I was like, no, I'm going to give this thing a shot. And then that's one thing led to another. That's how I lived there for a while, and then ended up moving back to like Utah.
So you knock doors.
Oh, I knocked doors, brother.
And yeah, that thing for me was like probably the most transformational experience ever, because the rule was knock 100 doors a day, and then it was try to get 100 no's a day. And I just remember how brutal it was to just like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, you get up and there's no commission, no guarantee of money. Your bank account could be negative, and you have to go knock on doors for people who don't want you there. Talk to them. Is this solar? Well, not exactly. It's more clean energy solution, right? This is totally different than solar.
The net energy metering program, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. And so, but it taught me how to be quick, how to be on my feet. I'm so glad I'm past that phase. And I remember having conversations with myself, thinking this will be worth it later, this will be worth it later. And I would I've always done transcendental meditation, so I would always try to sort of transcend the moment and think to myself like pull myself out of the moment to later. Like later, I'll end up in a better situation. This will all be a funny story later that we talk about. In the moment, I have to live it. But I always had like a vision that would make the temporary sacrifice worth it. Even when I was getting big names, right? Even when it came to hunting the big names, like the way I got Grant Cardone was when I started the show. My ex-girlfriend at the time, she loved Grant Cardone, she loved Hot Cheetos, and she loved Quest bars. And so you see where I'm going with this.
Exactly.
In my heartbroken mind, because I was always a little bit of a playboy earlier when I was younger, and so when she broke up with me, that was the first time that At the time, my young ego was like, how dare she break up with me, and I was just so devastated that I ended up using that as motivation to do really hard stuff that in the moment was hard, but I would just tell myself, later this will be worth it, later this will be worth it. One of the examples for those is, for example, for Grant Cardone, he lives in Miami, I live in LA. So I saw that he had flown into Beverly Hills, and on the background of his Instagram story, Elena was saying like, "Hey Grant, are we still going to XYZ place for dinner?" So he's like, "Yeah, babe, we'll be there at 8 o'clock, Beverly Hills." So I drove 3.5 hours to Beverly Hills to wait outside of a restaurant that Grant Cardone and his wife were at, and pitched him about getting on the podcast when he got out, and he said yes. Right? Like, talk about leap of faith. I had a beat up 2013 Toyota Corolla. I parked it around the corner because I was embarrassed and I couldn't afford valet. I even borrowed gas money to get there, just to show you the level of like inner
Hustle, yeah.
anxiety and whatever. But the fire in me was so strong, partially because I had these big dreams, but the other part of me was like, oh, this ex-girlfriend who broke up with me, God, wouldn't it be so cool if she would just go, what the how did I leave him and now he's like with that thought was so compelling to me that whatever the obstacle, I was willing to go through it, Even the creator of Hot Cheetos, I went to like 4 or 5 speaking events, waited till he got off stage. He said no every time. And then the 3rd or 4th time he said, all right, man, I'll do your podcast without me even asking, just because he appreciated the hustle, right? I told him, consider me the young man you once were, because he was once a janitor at Frito-Lay who cold called and pitched the CEO of Frito-Lay for the Hot Cheetos idea, which ended up being the multi-billion-dollar product. So anytime I was in a position like that, I would always just try to appeal to the younger version of them, because all these people that we look up to, man or woman or whatever, there's always somebody in the story that gave them that chance,
Exactly.
that disproportionate opportunity. So I try to always speak to that and capitalize on that as quickly as possible. But yeah, that was kind of what knocking doors taught me, is just how to be relentless with knocking on doors.
No, man, I like that story so much. And it's interesting because everyone's got their different ways of connecting and networking and getting people as guests as well. But one thing is a common denominator is the fact that there's a hustle behind it, whether it's like a cold DM, whether it's working through PR, whether it's like getting like a team, but it's just always being relentless in the pursuit to try and reach a certain goal and get the certain guest.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
That's my attitude, is whatever it takes. Even with my team members, I learned in the military. I was never in the military. My cousin was, and he told me there's this great saying in the military that exists a path to every destination, and it's just a matter of, are you willing to find it? There is a universe. Who's somebody your dream interview? Like, to anybody on earth that's
Elon
alive?
Musk, and one of them is a guy that you got that I'm going to talk to you about.
Okay.
Top G himself. So
Okay,
those
Top
are my
G.
2 main ones. Elon Musk is South African,
Right.
Pretoria boy,
Right.
and Top G is Top G.
Right. So for me, Top G was one of them as well. Shout out Tate. But yeah, getting him was awesome. I'm happy to talk about that. But for me, the attitude is always like, whatever it takes, like gun to your head mentality. Like, if you had to get Elon Musk in the next 30 days, or there was radical consequence, you have to, not you want to, or you would hope to, or it would be cool, or want, but if you fucking had to, what would you do? And the idea, your brain is like a chat GPT mechanism. If you say like, oh, how could I get Elon, is very different than what's the easiest way to get Elon in the next 30 days for 30 minutes of his time, leveraging an existing network of people that I already have. The better you input something into your system, like chat GPT, it'll give you an answer.
Exactly.
If I say, what color are your socks right now? You don't have to answer it. Your brain automatically answers it. And so I have found that the better you prompt yourself with urgency, radical urgency, the better ideas you get to close those gaps. So it sounds kind of foo-foo, but it's worked for me because you think of very different ideas in very different emotional tempos when you set an intention for a big interview or whatever it is.
Which kind of segues to what I'm about to get into right now. Andrew Tate,
Yes.
Grant Cardone, Ed Milet, Luke Belmont, one of my favorite, Patrick Bet-David.
Yes.
Look at that industrial founders, just revolutionary names I gave you. How did you manage to convince these people to jump on your podcast? You can give a brief one before I go to Andrew, because Andrew is going to be a specific one I want to talk to about that one.
So we said Cardone, Milet,
Bet David,
Tate. Belmar, and Tate. Okay. So for Cardone, I mentioned that.
Yes.
He was into Beverly Hills. I went to the restaurant. I waited outside. I pitched him, and he goes, You drove all the way here just to pitch me to be on your podcast? I said, yes, sir. Absolutely. Consider me the young man you once were. He goes, you got a business card? And you know how everybody usually fakes that they have a business card, even though they don't, but everyone does the thing. So I did the thing, and somehow I had one. And he goes, I like you, man. You're prepared. So I gave him the card, and he goes, I'll put you in touch with my assistant. And sure enough, he puts me in touch with his assistant. His assistant says, can you do next week Wednesday? I said, yes, absolutely. I had no money. I had a load of things on my schedule Wednesday, cleared it. I had no videographer, no connection to videographer, no money to pay a videographer.
Is it Tony Ann?
No, although that sounds familiar.
Tony Ann Russo, like Italian kind of lady.
Oh, the assistant.
Yeah.
Yes. Now that's his current assistant. Yes. At the time it wasn't, but now it is Tony Ann. She's awesome.
I love her.
But yeah, at the time it was Katie. But anyways, they said, can you do it here? I said, yes, absolutely. Called all my friends, found a videographer. He said it would be $550 for the shoot. I said, absolutely no problem. Is it okay if I pay you on a net 30 invoice? He said, yeah, sure. So I got, basically that allowed me to float the $550 to film the podcast. So we film it, and then I call a bunch of real estate offices, and I say, hey, I just did an interview with Grant Cardone. I'm looking for a sponsor for the episode. If you'd be open to cover it. And you don't even have to pay me directly. Just pay them the fee. I'm not going to make any money on it. We'll put your logo on it. So if you watch that Grant Cardone interview, you'll see a real estate company's logo in the intro. So my first episode ever was sponsored, right? So a lot of this stuff I just learned through the School of Hard Knocks, just imperfect, radical, urgent action. And I show up to Malibu. I'm nervous as hell. And I remember I borrowed my dad's like slacks and shoes. I had a buddy drive me because I didn't have gas money. Like I was really in a tough place at this time. And we do the interview, and he ends up saying, hey, is it cool if Elena hops on? So it's me, Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, and we're doing this interview in Malibu overlooking the water. And it ends up, at the time comes out, ends up being the most watched and downloaded Grant Cardone interview of all time, like in the world. And so right off the bat, boom.
That's 2019, right?
I'm in business, something like this, maybe this is 20, maybe before that even, maybe 2018, 2017 maybe.
Because you had a very good one. I watched the one when he came 3-4 months ago when he was talking about the governor.
Yes, that was a recent one, yeah. And Grant since has become a client and friend, and he's referred to some awesome people. But yeah, that Grant Cardone interview just performed really well. So instantly in the industry, I had clout, instantly. And I learned that strategy from a mentor of mine named David Lee. It's called the leapfrog theory, whereby, let's say there's, he learned it because he's one of the largest luxury watch dealers in North America. Mm-hmm. And so the leapfrog theory simply states that by getting a kingpin, you can get the whole crowd. So instead of trying to get 100 people, get the one person that allows 100 to come to you.
And speaking about that, have you noticed in sales, and when I was in New Jersey, sales was the same thing. We looked for the main person because it was a big Indian community.
Yes.
We looked for like the alpha Indian guy.
Yes.
Because we know word of mouth, nobody's going to buy pest control from any other person unless he gives a go-ahead. So you get him the biggest discount. Even if you make a loss, knowing that he can give you referrals through the WhatsApp group, but then that brings like money coming in flow as well.
Correct. And I learned that in solar too. Is if you're in a neighborhood and you're trying to sell something, go to the biggest house. Because if you sell the biggest house, everyone else is going to be like, oh, well, if he did it, right? But I think it's a misnomer. Most people think, oh, I gotta work my way up. I got to do 100 small podcasts, and then my 101 I can do Cardone. It's all made up. It's all made up. And so I just leapfrog theory to the top, right to the top. I said, okay, who can I rather do 5 podcasts with humongous names than 50 with people that nobody knows.
Bingo.
So I did. So I got Cardone. Cardone introed me to Ed Milet. So that was a piece of cake. And then by then I had the creator of Hot Cheetos, Tom Bilyeu, founder of Quest Bar, billion-dollar founder of Quest. I DM'd him like 15 times. He never responded on Instagram. And then one time, he just out of nowhere, he just responded, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, meet me at my house." I think we met him at like 3 or 4 in the morning in Beverly Hills. That was the only window he had available, 4 to 5 a.m. It was pitch black in Beverly Hills. His assistant, staff, everybody was on set. He was ready to go, and we filmed it in pitch black early in the morning, Beverly Hills, that interview. But see, what's the strategy is like Tom Bilyeu had a show called Impact Theory. So if I get Tom and he gets a bunch of guests, now it's a lot easier to get all of his guests. You see what I'm saying?
Bingo.
So I was playing chess from the very beginning by getting these category kings. So that's how I got them. And to be honest, a lot of the other ones, I have a lot of stories of people I didn't get, right? I tried to get Joe Rogan one time, right? Gun to your head mentality. If I had to get Joe Rogan, how would I get it? Well, I could email him. I could send a press kit, blah, blah, blah. Or I saw that he was doing a stand-up comedy show in LA, so I bought a VIP ticket to the meet and greet, right? Then he could just go straight to the show, ask him directly. So like, I think a lot of people just assume that there's all these layers of complexity, but it's all made up. The rules are there are no rules. So I went up to Joe and I tried to get a podcast with him. Didn't work out, but I rolled the dice.
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld. I have countless stories.
I'm glad you mentioned the Joe Rogan thing, because sometimes people just think there's like this thing that Omar just gets whatever he wants. Like it's like a dice, like he's just gonna get every single person. But they don't know there's a hustle behind the fact that you kept trying to push for these certain guests, but like Joe Rogan didn't go through, but the attempt was there.
Yes.
So you have to be able to put your eggs in the basket and you have to go for it. It will work out most of the time, of course. And because of the experience and what you've gained, it's been easy over time, but you have had no's.
Oh, so many more no's than yeses, including I almost got, people may not believe me, but I guess time will tell. I almost got President Trump right before the election. I was this close to getting him.
And I want to talk about how you got to the Mar-a-Lago party, but that's another topic after the Tate one. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we just got in touch with Tony Robbins because I went to a restaurant at the Palm Beach Grill where Tony and his wife love to go to. That's ironically why I went after a recent Tony Robbins event. And I think we met our mutual friend Lada there.
Yeah.
And a few days later, I ended up going to this restaurant, and Tony and his whole family are there. And I was joking with my friends, oh, imagine we ran into them. And we ran into them. And so in my head, I'm like, oh, my God, I don't want to be rude, but this is the king, Tony Robbins. He changed my life. Oh, my God. So I'm thinking, I'm like, what am I going to do? I don't want to go up to the table. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be, I don't want to interrupt the guy. So I'm thinking. And I go, bingo. Why don't I just pay the bill? So I call the waiter over. And it's crazy. I run into Tony Robbins at this Palm Beach Grill restaurant, and I'm like trying to get in, I'm trying to find a way in. I end up thinking, okay, let me talk to the manager, ask the manager to come over. There was like 15 people in his party, and I said, I'd like to take care of the bill. And she goes, just Tony's or the whole party? Because it's like 15 people. And this is a, nicer restaurant. So it ends up being like a few $1,000s on the bill, but I said, screw it, I'll do it. So I end up paying the bill, and it was straight out of a movie. I write the waiter says, "Is there any note you want to write?" So I said, "Hey Tony, thank you so much for all the impact you've had in my life. Was just at the seminar. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be living my dreams with the podcast that I have." Something to the effect of, "It would be an absolute dream to have you on one day, right?" Mm-hmm. And so the waiter goes over to Tony, takes the bill, sees that we paid. He reads the letter, and now Tony Robbins at this restaurant. This is literally, it's crazy. It's one of the most surreal days of my life. We run into Tony at this restaurant. We take care of the bill. The waiter drops the bill and tells Tony Robbins and his family, like, oh, it was taken care of with this note that I wrote him. So Tony Robbins stands up and looks back and calls me over to the table. And now in my head, I'm like, oh my God, did I just chess move this universal thing of like not wanting to go to Tony? And now I took care of him and his whole family. So the pre-frame is not I'm a fan who's a taker, but I'm a giver. And now he invites me and our party to the table. And now I'm at Tony Robbins' table. And I'm like, oh my God, how is this happening right now? For people who don't care for Tony Robbins too much, they may not appreciate it. But to me, that is like the guy who changed my life. And so I'm sitting at the table and I'm talking to him like this, and we're talking back and forth, and we're just having a great chat, and I'm asking him questions about business and this, and he goes, "Well, have you thought about this?" Half of me is listening to him, the other half of me can't believe that this is real life right now. I want to hold on to the moment, And he said, "What's the name of your podcast?" And I told him, and we went back and forth. And he goes, "All right, man, I'll tell you what, I'll do your effing podcast." And in my head, I was like, "Oh my God, this was like my biggest dream in life to have Tony on the show." So, sometimes it's radical and perfect action, but honestly, I'm a big believer in energy, man. We just got back from Las Vegas, and I was telling my cousin, I was traveling with my cousin. A lot of times, like, I believe in like tuning yourself. Like, I believe everything is connected.
100%.
And if you tune to the energy, things will come to you. A lot of us assume that there's no magic in life. I like to rely on the magic. I like to lean into the magic, bank on the magic in a kind of way, right? So, long story short, we were just at Encore. I've been working on getting Conor McGregor on the podcast and a lot of big fighters.
I heard you were talking about that in one of the Tate interviews that you had last year.
Yes, that's right. That's
you
right.
Put a round table with the two of them. Trust me, I listened to your stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So
that's right.
Yeah.
So fast forward.
But it's his story that's very inspiring. It's his grit. People can relate with it, like what you were mentioning. People can see, like, oh my gosh, this guy was a plumber whose girlfriend took care of him.
Right.
But he foresaw what he became, and what he is today is because of something that was visualized way before what he is.
And emotionally intensified.
Exactly.
So we were at the Encore Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. I was debating which hotels to go to, and my intuition always tells me proximity is power. So we end up going there, and we meet some great people, run into some great friends and business colleagues and all that. And as we're leaving to go to the airport, at the very tail end, someone else is actually leaving at the exact same time. It ends up being a gentleman by the name of Audie, who's Conor McGregor's manager. He's a CEO and owner of Paradigm Sports Management. And I recognize him because I've been trying to get Conor on the show forever. And he's walking, literally, I mean, you couldn't coordinate it any perfectly. And he's walking in the best of moods out of the hotel. And I said, "Excuse me, Audie?" He goes, "Yeah, man, hey." And we start talking. We get his email, we exchange information, and now we're working on getting him on the show. And so there's like so many examples of this where it's like, if you tune to the energy, a lot of times initially you got to fight for it, but a lot of times things start coming to you. The way I think of it is kind of like, it's going to sound kind of foo-foo, but I feel like if you think about life, right, this thing we all call life, everything you want has to go to somebody, right? Somebody has your dream bank balance. Somebody has your dream wife or husband. Somebody has your dream car. Somebody has your dream business. Somebody has your dream podcast. Like, somebody will have it. It will exist. It will exist. Why not you? Why not?
100%.
It's got to go to somebody. And so in my mind, it will go to the person that is most tuned energetically to it. The person who is tuned and is moving in the direction of it most frequently. The universe has to reward it to somebody. So I just do everything in my power to be that somebody for my dream.
Man.
Instead of thinking of it in a, what are the odds, or what are the, right? Somebody your same height, your same blood vessels, skin, tissues, organs, etc., is going to live your dream. Will it be you?
Dude,
right?
That's so powerful.
So to me, I just obsess over that. And if you energetically live in that, I feel like it has to go to somebody. So your best bet is tuning to it.
The reason I pulled this up, I couldn't agree more. I love that you spoke about energy and an unwavering confidence, knowing that you can actually get there. So I have a dream list that I did way before I even started the podcast, and I'm like, I'm not going to change it, but I got to share with you a few of the names that are over here as well. Elon Musk, Cristiano Ronaldo, LeBron James, David Beckham. You got Tate. Patrice Motsepe is the richest South African guy.
What's his name?
Patrice Motsepe. He's like a billionaire, like back at home. Ron DeBrin. I was close with this one, number 8, Jordan Peterson. And matter of fact, it could be scheduled for like in September time. David Goggins and Sir Alex Ferguson. But my point is, the dream list, when you spoke about the energy, same way. When I started the podcast, people are like, hey, listen, start with your local people. I'm like, no ways. I need to start with the big bang. And
Yes.
before I got Andy Elliott, who was at that time, and is still the fastest growing sales trainer in the country right now. And everything that you just said I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
However, I still feel like, Brad Lee was one of my mentors in Vegas time, and he helped me get Andy. And from Andy, it was easy to get like Keaton Hoskins, the muscle. And then from then it was easy to get David Meltzer, who had 100 million, lost 100 million, and then gained it back again.
Yes.
But like everything is like that ripple. Everything you just said is a testament.
Yes.
But now I still feel personally, you can agree, you can obviously disagree with me on this. There's certain levels I feel like that can get you. Now, the Tates,
Yeah.
getting someone like that, what techniques did you use to bring one of the most viral persons in the world in the studio? Because he is on my dream list. So
Yeah. Tate was crazy. Well, one, it goes back to the initial thing of like, said it with emotional intensity. Like a lot of times it's delusional. Like even when I tried to get Trump, I'm fully aware it's delusional. But what's the step? Well, I don't know. It's the imperfect, stupid steps that we all think like, no, it can't be that easy, right? So for me, I just like, for Trump, for example, and I'll get to the Tate thing, but it's the same philosophy. I just go, okay, so who's his point person? Okay, his point people are X, Y, Z. You can find it with a little bit of digging. Okay, cool. What's their Instagram? Oh, on Instagram, they only have 5,000 followers. Let me follow him. Let me comment on his PR person's thing. Oh, they respond to that. Oh, let me have a conversation with them. Let me see if I can hop on a phone call. Right? So it's just so it's being able to see this big complex, I'm going to interview the leader of the free world and inspire millions of people. No, let me just find the guy who's in his ear who I can, right? So it's just breaking it down to the ridiculous, right? And then moving in that. So that's the kind of like framework of it. As for Tate specifically, so this is actually a cool story about karma. When I started the show early on, I had this awesome kid named Jeremy John Mary. He reached out to me. I think at the time he was like 17 or 18 years old. He was a fan of the show. And at the time we offered consulting calls that I was doing because we were getting so many people like, how do you do this? How are you getting big names? How are you doing this? How are you building your brand? So we started offering I started doing them for free initially, but then we got so much demand I started charging. And there's this kid who was like 17. He didn't have any money, but I could just tell he was like really sincere in his message. He DM'd me on Instagram, I believe. And I said, sure, I'll hop on a call with you. This was a long time ago. This was years ago. This was before the show really blew up. It was maybe a year or two in. And but it ended up paying off later, which is a huge lesson I've learned about being cool to people on the way up because they'll open doors that you couldn't even imagine down the road. And that ends up being the bigger thing, by the way. But only time will reveal that. But anyways, so I hop on this call with him, and he's like, dude, how do you do this? I want to do it. At the time, I think he was living in Canada. So I give him this advice, and he's like, dude, thank you so much. This is super helpful. And I basically just told him, like, just do whatever it takes. Whatever you want, just do whatever it takes. This is my favorite line, whatever it takes. So he wanted to work for Tom Bilyeu. So he made a website called something like TomBilyeu, or something like that. And cold emailed the entire Impact Theory team with the link to the site, with references and testimonies and ideas and all this. He ended up going to work for Tom at Impact Theory and ends up being my in because, like I said, when Tom had the show, he has all these humongous names. So Jeremy ended up working at Tom Bilyeu and helping coordinating a lot of that stuff. So now anybody I want to intro to that's ever been on Impact Theory, fast forward 1 or 2 years later, after that phone call, is wide open because I planted a seed early on. Not intentionally to like get something out of it, but because I added value later. And so he offered to connect me with Jason Waller. Jason Waller is Tate, Andrew, and Tristan's best friend. Justin Waller. Justin Waller. So they introduced me to him. We end up doing a podcast with him that ends up doing great. And we're walking back to the elevator, and I said, by the way, Justin, out of curiosity, I mean, I know everyone asks you, but what would it take to get a pod with Tate going? And he goes, oh man, you're effing crazy. Like, you probably won't do it, and da da da. Plus, he's on house arrest in Romania, so you'd have to go there. And I was like, well, that's not a problem. Like, we could fly there, but like, what would it take? Like, what would make it interesting for him? And so he said, let me ask him. We'll talk about it. And I said, okay. So I got his contact, followed up 2-3 times, kind of followed up. And they said, well, hey, if you'd be willing to come to Romania to do it, maybe there's a way we can do it. And so, long story short, we just kept pursuing that. Took months of follow-up and follow-up and follow-up. And then one day we get an anonymous message that's just like, hey, what's up, G? And it was the top G himself. And we ended up coordinating with his team, set it up. Ended up flying my whole production team to Italy and Romania. And we went to the Marmaros Hotel, which is, I got the biggest, most badass suite in all of Bucharest, Romania. Couldn't even believe it. And coincidentally, as timing would have it, I interviewed him in the same room that Piers Morgan interviewed him. And it was literally a week before he got arrested again. Yeah. So the timing was unbelievable. And so I'm sitting there with him. He walks in. He's got like 5 bodyguards. Comes in armored vehicle. Comes in top notch. Aura next level, like insane aura, right? And everyone is just like, what the fuck is he doing here? And in my head, I'm nervous as hell, man. I mean, I'm pretty calm, cool, composed, but I'm nervous as hell. I didn't sleep well the night before. Got a lot of business and hiring and firing stuff, like all sorts of normal stuff going on. And he just comes in with bodyguards, 5 armed bodyguards. Literally one stood at the door the whole time, and I sat down, and they asked for a bunch of black coffees and fruit to be there. He arrived right on time, sharp on time. And we ended up staying down for 5 hours and doing that interview, smoked a few cigars. The hotel said, like, hey, there's a fee. You're not allowed to smoke cigars. He said, don't worry about it. I'll pay it. And we just smoked cigars for 5 hours, and he drank like 4 or 5 black coffees because he fasts all day. He just eats once in the evening. So he just poked at some fruit, ate a bunch of coffee. We did that interview, and it ended up getting millions of views and downloads and all this stuff. And we've kept in touch, and he's become a cool homie now. So,
dude, that's powerful.
Yeah, it's
that's
surreal.
One of the things that, and I think the same thing. Justin Waller was meant to come to Salt Lake, and because one of my second guest, they're close friends. They were promoting Lamborghinis and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Keaton Hoskins, you probably know him, the muscle.
Yeah.
And so when Justin Waller was around there, he was back and forth Salt Lake. And when I went to Miami, I just missed it as well because I was in Miami for a short time. Mm-hmm. And so when I just keep hearing the stories, now I want to ask a question for me personally and how you can help me improve on this aspect. The thing about the guests I've been getting, everything, it's been my own direct reach, which isn't bad, right? But how did you end up forming a team, especially ones that can do what you do? In other words, that have that grit, that have that hustle, because I don't mind hiring, getting people. It's just that, man, I sleep 4 hours a day, every day, because I'm DMing, I'm cold call, I'm getting the PRs, I'm meeting at events, I'm doing the VIP. Yeah. But it's like, I'm not just gonna pay someone that's gonna just push a button, email. I don't do email. You gotta go, beyond just like the normal email. So that's my question again. Like, how did you end up getting a team that had the same vision and drive that you have to try and get the big guests that you currently have?
Yeah. So it goes back to the gun to head mentality, right? Like that's a phenomenal question that I racked my brain about for a long time. But I have found that most of the hardest questions to answer could be answered with that framework. Gun to your head mentality. If you had to solve it today, what would you do? Infinite resources. You'll find that money you don't even really need. So what I did is I just go, success leaves clues. Why reinvent the wheel? I just go, who's the best in the world? So I found out who Joe Rogan's interview booker was, Googled his name, found his name, reached out to him, offered to pay him for his time to book for me. Everything in the universe has shortcuts like that. So I tried that, and then I found Kelly Clarkson's booker. She has a talk show. I found her booker, reached out to him. I reached out to Tom Bilyeu's former podcast booker. I just look at anybody who has a successful show, find the behind the scenes of who's running it, and then try to either pay them for an hour of their time or pay them to consult my team on how to do it. So I just find people who are already doing it and then pay them to get in on the action with us. And a lot of times you'll be blown away at how inexpensive it is compared to what you think it is.
Powerful. That's powerful. Now, I wanted to actually read this question out, like personally, because I feel like some people are struggling trying to get like those first few guests. In the early days, when you had no major guest or audience, how did you convince high-level people? And you gave the Grant Cardone example.
Yes.
And from then, everything just was a ripple effect, right? It wasn't like, but how do you end up like convincing bigger people? Because people listen.
It's still hard. There's still always levels of people that you have to convince. My favorite thing is just bring up all the objections in advance, because it shows them that you're aware of their concerns. So, for example, even with Grant, when I went up to him, I said, "Hey, Grant," because what were his objections? One, I don't have a show. Who the F are you? Number two, who's this for? Number three, how long is it going to take? I'm on vacation with my family. Number four, what do I get out of it? Right? Like, what's the benefit to me? And number five, can I trust you? Right? So I know that those are his, right? So if I in 90 seconds can say, hey, Grant, by the way, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And I know normally you'd never do a podcast like this. The show's too small. I know you're in town with your family, but I have a show that's launching. It's in pre-production. It wasn't in pre-production, but I had to say some things so that it should, right? So I said, when we launch, we'd love to have you in the lineup, and we'll promote your 10X book. I know you would normally never do this. I know I don't have a large audience, but I would love to come to you, be in and out in 90 minutes, and help you promote the new 10X event you have coming up. If you'd be open to it, we'll do whatever it takes to keep it super easy on your schedule. You don't have to go anywhere. We'll come to you, make it easy. All right, that's another thing, logistics. One of the biggest things that helped me get big names is I always went to them. I never had a guest come somewhere, because that in and of itself has tremendous friction. Now we do that, obviously, but in the beginning, it was always, we'll go to them. And the language was always like, hey, we'll be in and out in 60 minutes, right? So, because then in their mind, they just have to put it on the schedule. It's not as stressful for the assistant. And a lot of times, the assistant is the one making the decision. When I interviewed, for example, the 45th wealthiest man in America, not too far from here, John Paul DeJoria. He's the founder of Patron Tequila and Paul Mitchell Shampoo and Conditioner, not one, but two multi-billion-dollar, unicorn companies. This guy was homeless at 37, right? Multi-billionaire. The way I got him, you'll enjoy this, is, all right, you got to speak it into existence. So I was talking about getting him. Turns out my personal trainer who's training me, he was like, oh, who would you want to get? And I rifled off some names, and I told him that. And he goes, oh, funny story. My mom actually used to go to school with his personal assistant. Wow. She's been his assistant for like 30 years. So I was like, no way. I was like, do you think we could ask? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So they put in an email, they put in an ask, and fast forward 2 weeks later, we were in his office doing the interview. And I'm sitting there with this multi-billionaire. He had no concept of the show, no concept of it. He's just doing a favor for his assistant's friend. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times it's about penetrating those networks. The biggest names ever don't even have time for social media or any of that. They're trusting their point people. So it's more about winning the point people than it is the individual.
Okay, awesome stuff. Yeah, as we obviously conclude right now, what advice would you give somebody out there that's literally like tuning in this podcast and is like, listen, I want to be able to get something as big as what Omar currently has right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would say is step one is you got to decide what it is that you want. I think most people in life, I think there's a great expression by Les Brown. He says most people don't aim too high and miss, they aim too low and hit. Right? Most people don't aim too high and miss, they aim too low and hit for their dreams. And so my best advice to people is like, number one, you have to decide what it is that you want. And then number two, you have to be willing to overly take action to do whatever it takes to make it happen. And there's going to be a ton of obstacles. It'll take way more time. It'll take way more friction. You'll depend on serendipity, luck, magic, etc. But the reality is that we are here. What you want is here. And the goal is about closing the gap. Mm-hmm. So do whatever you can to be a better player to close that gap. Be flexible, be patient, build a team. There's different levels, right? In the beginning, it's about you maximizing yourself. But I learned this so many times over that it's really about building a team because you're competing against teams. When I was a great podcaster and I didn't have money, right? This is a huge lesson I'll give a takeaway before we wrap up is that resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. Mm-hmm. I didn't have any money. So how did I get a production team and travel and do all these things? Well, I negotiated with a videographer and a studio, and I said, look, I don't make any money whatsoever. Like, I'll show you everything. I had nothing. Here's my bank account. It's negative $800. But I have a dream to do this. I know you want to grow your studio. I know you want to grow your production. What if I partnered with you on this? And we ended up splitting AdSense revenue on YouTube 50-50 right down the middle. And so I didn't have any money, but I had a crew that was bought in. So when I had a guest, when I had a shoot, when we needed to go somewhere, they would be willing at a moment's notice to do it. Right off the bat, I didn't have to spend any money, and I had unlimited ammo to get big names, which was me, and a production team to actually fulfill it. No money involved. And then money started coming in later. They and I started getting overpaid, because before we were getting underpaid or not paid at all. But the lesson in that is that I was clear on the vision. I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the money. If I would have waited, nothing would have happened, right? So resourcefulness was the ultimate resource. And when you're clear on what you want, you will find the way, you will create the way, but you have all the resources in you to achieve what it is that you want. Will you do whatever it takes to get it out? That's the question.
Powerful, man. Usually, as I conclude, the last question I ask, which is right now, it's because the code to winning is my podcast name. Everyone's got a different definition of what the term winning means for them. What does winning mean for Omar?
Winning for me is about turning the vision into reality.
Powerful.
That simply, right? It's like, my goal when I started this whole thing wasn't to make a bunch of money or do all this stuff. It was to fill my life with as many surreal experiences as humanly possible. It was to be sitting down and go, holy shit, I can't believe this is real life. Holy shit, I'm sitting across from Tony Robbins. Holy cow, millions of people listen to my stuff. Not from an ego place, but from a place of like that little kid I mentioned at the beginning of the interview who was in the stands watching the people in the arena going, how do I become a player in the arena? And so for me, it's about becoming a better player in the arena.
Powerful, brother. If you could let our audience and guests know where they could get a hold of you if they want to try and pay for consulting or any jumping in your I know you have a school community, and I know you probably have other
Yeah,
if you could let our guests know as well, please.
absolutely. First off, thank you so much, KG, for having me on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the Code to Winning podcast. You can check out some links in the description below. Check me out at Omar the Rockstar on Instagram, Omar Elattar on social media. The Passionate Few podcast on all YouTube, Spotify, audio and video platforms. We're on Rumble as well. And you guys can get in touch, reach out for consulting, or if you guys would like to help to build your brand, we have a production and social media agency to help you guys do that as well. And if you guys come from KG, I'll personally hop on a free call with you. If you guys reach out down below and just say you saw our episode on KG's show.
Boom. I'll be consulting, trust me. I'm going to that consulting as well, and I'll give feedback at the same time as well. So the code to winning, insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Omar the Rockstar. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you so much, brother. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. God bless.
Oh. Thank you, brother.